The Cochrane Collaboration 7 evidence-based domain is to review author judgment about each risk of bias item presented in the studies, whether it has low risk, high risk, or unclear risk of bias. The first domain is random sequence generation. There is low risk of bias if the researcher using random number table or computer random generation to allocate the subjects into the group. But if they allocate the subjects by using quasi-random such as date of birth or ID number of the subjects, it considered as having high risk of bias. Secondly, allocation concealment. If the random sequence is sequentially numbered and sealed with an opaque envelope, it has low risk of bias. But if the random sequence is already known, it has high risk of bias. Thirdly, blinding of participants and personnel. If there is blinding, there is low risk of bias. But if there is no blinding and the outcome likely to be influenced, there is high risk of bias. Next, blinding of outcome assessment. If there is blinding, there is low risk of bias, but if there is no blinding and the measurement likely to be influenced, it has high risk of bias. For the incomplete outcome data domain, if there is no missing data or reasons for missing data is not related to the outcome, so it considered as having low risk of bias. But there is high risk of bias if the reasons of missing data is related to the outcome. Next, selective reporting. If all pre-specified outcomes of interest to the review is reported in pre-specified way, it has low risk of bias, but there is high risk of bias if the outcomes is not reported as expected. Lastly, for the other bias domain, it has low risk of bias if the study appears to be free of other source of risk, but if there is issue such as recruitment bias happen in cluster randomized trial, the other bias domain have